Einstein was a strange and wonderful man who looked like a kind of rumpled wizard. He had a great sense of humor, a childlike playfulness, and a deep humanity.
Einstein was a walking contradiction. He could be absent-minded and forgetful. Yet when he focused on a problem, he was like a laser beam. He had a great sense of humor, but he could also be very serious and intense.
Einstein was a small man with a bushy head of hair, bright eyes, and an impish grin. He had a way of tilting his head and looking up at you from beneath his eyebrows that made you feel as if you were being let in on a secret. He was a man who was entirely unself-conscious about his appearance. He had a wild halo of hair, baggy clothes, and a peculiar gait, but he didn't care. Einstein was an incredibly humble and kind person, despite his towering intellect. He had a way of making everyone around him feel valued and important. Einstein had a great sense of humor and loved to joke around. He was playful and mischievous and had a way of putting people at ease. He was always friendly, approachable, and willing to engage in conversation with anyone, regardless of their background or education.
He was like a child in his simplicity and candor. There was a feeling of outward untidiness, but everything about him was in its place.
Einstein was a rebel, with a passion for challenging authority and questioning established norms. He had a thick mop of wild hair that seemed to have a life of its own and gave him a somewhat disheveled and eccentric appearance. Einstein had a very distinctive face, with deep-set eyes and a prominent nose that seemed to reflect his intellectual intensity and determination. He had a very unassuming and humble manner and dressed in a simple and unpretentious way, often wearing the same threadbare sweater and trousers for days on end. Einstein's posture was often somewhat hunched, and his gait was rather awkward, which gave him a somewhat ungainly appearance. He had wild, unkempt hair that gave him the appearance of a mad scientist. His eyes twinkled with a mischievous intelligence, and he often had a look of a childlike wonder on his face. Einstein was a small man, with a delicate build and soft-spoken manner, but when he spoke, he could command a room like a giant.
Einstein's appearance struck me as wild and strange, but beneath the exterior, he was a well-balanced and kind person.
He had a distinctive, almost comical look that made him instantly recognizable, but behind the bushy eyebrows and the funny mustache was a man of great depth and intellect. He had a way of looking at you that made you feel like he was seeing right through you. He was both unassuming and self-assured, with an almost childlike curiosity about the world around him. Einstein was no saint, but he had a kind of sanctity. He was a deeply serious man, but he had a wonderful sense of humor. He was an idealist, but he was also a practical man. He was a genius, but he was also a very human person.